So there are a lot of ways to build a dashboard in Home Assistant. Today, I'm going to show you a little bit about a thing called the Ultra Card. This Ultra Card is supposed to be an easy way to build professional dashboards in Home Assistant without using all of the YAML and everything else you have to do. This video is a little bit different format than what I normally do. More of a raw video, less editing in this, to kind of just show you what I see from a first impression standpoint of the Ultra Card and take you through some of my thoughts on it as we go. I played with this for a few minutes before filming the video, but not too much, so I could have a kind of a fresh perspective. This will give you and I both a chance to kind of see it together for the first time and see how the card works. So let's jump in, play around with it, and go from there. All right, so a little bit about this Ultra Card that I found through a Reddit post. It says here that it transforms Home Assistant dashboard creation from complex YAML to an intuitive visual experience. It has a drag and drop editor, and it says you can build stunning responsive dashboard cards using custom-made modules. Says you can build your perfect layout here, choose your modules, configure everything to the last little bit. And there's two options here, actually. And there is a paid version of this card. And I don't know, it's $5 a month. And you get backups, you get unlimited snapshots. So you can create things based on seasons or test new configurations, whatever you want to back up or snapshot. Export and import your configurations as shared files. You can sync across multiple devices. And then there's advanced dashboard management and priority support. So if you want to do Ultra, and by the way, I'm not sponsored by this card or whatever, these people. I just saw this on the internet and a Reddit post and figured I would go see what it was about and then kind of share it with y'all. Anyway, it says it's perfect for power users, seasonal layouts, experiments, basically everything I do, but I'm not going to do the Ultra Card Pro. I'm just going to play around with this for now. And then there's definitely an FAQ section you can look at for this card. All right, so this is a HACS install. So let me just first show you that and get out of here. If you're not familiar with HACS, it is the Home Assistant community store, and you can install a whole bunch of things in here. Now, in order to use this, you actually have to go down and you have to add a custom repository. So you would just take this repository here and you would go into HACS over here in the 3 dots section, custom repositories. You would paste that in here and you would just add it. Now you choose a type. I guess it's, let me see. Does it tell you if it's integration or what here? I mean, I don't know what kind it is, but typically I choose integration for most things. Anyway, just add it. So I've already added it. You can see it here. And then when you actually add it, you'll be able to install it, or it'll have a little download link here in the bottom right. So I've got it installed. So what I can do now is once I have it installed, I can go into a dashboard, and I'll just do this test here, and I can just add the card. So I played around with it a little bit here. So let me just delete this, and I will add this back in. So if I click on new dashboard, and if you're using sections, you'll click on a new section and a new card, choose the Ultra Card. You'll see it show up this way, and it automatically populates a picture and some other stuff in here. And one thing to note too, is I said this is going to be kind of like a learn as we go semi-informal video. It will be that, but I did play around with this card just a little bit before I filmed the video just to see a little bit about it, so I'm not completely blind. So you'll see that I know a few things, but not very much about it. All right, so what I do know is that you have this concept of rows and columns here, and adding a row will add you a new new row at the bottom, and then you can drag and drop these around. So you can flip them back and forth, And you can even drag things from modules from one to the other. So you have a good drag and drop editor here. Now I'm just going to start by going through the settings of the card. Now it talks about having background images. I don't know if that's a pro thing or whatever. And there's a few other things I found that don't quite make sense. And I'll talk about it here when I get to them. But you can change the color of the card, the backgrounds. If I want a blue background for this particular card, there's my blue background. And let's say I want to add, let's start with just a couple text modules here. Here's text 1. I'll leave everything default. And you'll see that it shows text 1 up here. Now that's row 1, column 1. If I want to add a second module, another text module, then I would add that here, text 2. And there's text 2, and they're stacked on top of each other because they're in a column under row 1. Now, if I wanted to add a second row, which I have here, and add another text module, I'd have it down here. Text 3. And now I have 3 of them, but they're all in columns. Now, you can take these columns. If I wanted to add a second column, now this is column 1, so these 2 are in column 1. I could add a second column, or maybe even drag this. No, I got to add a column first. Then I can drag this one here. Now I have 2 columns in row 1. If I click on this, I now have the ability to split the columns either evenly, 2/3, 1/3, 3/5, 2/5, 2/5, 3/5, or 1/3, 2/3. Let's just make it even to be symmetrical. Now you see what's happened is it's taken these 2 columns and it's evenly spread them across. Now, one thing to remember, or one of the things it talks about in this card is, let me find it over here for you. It is supposedly responsive to different layouts, different mobile stuff. I'm trying to find out where it talks about that. Give me a moment. Yeah, smart scaling, intelligent responsive scaling for edit panels. That's for edit panels. Anyway, it's supposed to work on your mobile optimized responsive layouts for all devices. There are some settings in here. Well, let me get over to the right screen. There are some settings in here that allow you to change the way the card layout is. So if I go into the settings for row 1, I can, maybe not here, somewhere in here, there's a way to set the width of these different things. And when you do that, if you don't leave it default, and you put it on a mobile and it's super wide, it may actually not fit on your mobile. So the suggestion is not to edit the width of certain things. And I don't really see it on here. I was playing with it earlier and it's somewhere. Anyway, the point is, if you start changing like the column widths and things like that outside of the normal one, then you potentially could have an issue with it not working on the mobile. So anyway, just keep that in mind. All right, so we have 2 columns and we have our 2 rows, and this row has 2 columns and whatever. So there's another thing you can do in here. I'm going to get rid of these modules or these columns, which then of course gets rid of the modules. I'm going to change this back to default. And by the way, if you change a setting on here, like the color, there's what's a really nice feature I found is that if you want to revert back a single area, a single setting back to default, you just click this button here and it reverts it back. I've seen that in a lot of different areas. If I change the font size, if I change a bunch of different things, I can just revert them all back to the default. And by the way, if you click this right arrow, all this right here that's kind of squished together will become a single screen. I find this a little bit overwhelming for my eyes because I can't really picture what I'm doing. For me, I always need to have the live view as I'm editing. So you can click on this dashboard button back over here and it brings you back into this. So I'm going to create a couple of cards that I did earlier just when I was playing with it and kind of show you how that works. So first I've got a column here that is a text module. And this is, I'm just going to call this one security. We'll make it all caps. And I'll just leave it like that for now. And then I'm going to create an icon. I believe that's what that is. Let me add a module here. Now, this is only one column, so I'm going to change it back to one column. Now it's centered. You can actually change things like the actions that happen when you click something. Like if I click that security thing and I want it to open another page or do something else, I can do all these different actions. I can also only display it if every condition is met or if any condition is met. That's something that can be done. And then design. This is where you really get into a bunch of stuff here. So you've got your text design where you can set text colors. So I could change this text color to red if I wanted to, or something else. And again, remember, if you want to go back to defaults, you just click that and it puts it back to defaults. I can left justify, center it, right justify, whatever that one's called. I forgot what it's called. Just justify. So I'll just leave it centered. You can change the font size. And some of this is, you kind of have to know what to type in here. So I'll make it 25. You can change the line height, the letter spacing, what kind of the font it is, the font weight. So if I wanted it bold, I can make it bold, although it didn't change much. Make it uppercase if I didn't have it already uppercase. Font style, italic or oblique, whatever that is, or just default. So let me put this back. None of these give me the option for resetting to default, so that's interesting. Anyway, that's a bunch of font related stuff. And then you can do the background. You can change this background to an image, an entity image, or an uploaded image, or a URL or something. So you can change the image in the background. There's this stuff called backdrop filter. You can kind of see that where it gives you some examples. So I don't know even what some of this does. Blur, just using their example. That didn't do anything. Grayscale. How do you spell grayscale? Grayscale. 25. I don't know if that's percent or I don't know what it's supposed to put there. And if you hit enter, that happens. Don't hit enter when you're editing this stuff. Design. Where was I at? Background, I guess. Yeah, so I get rid of this. So anyway, there's all of that. Sizes for everything, width, height, auto. This is all typed in. Spacing, you can do spacing. Again, you have to type it all in. This is where it gets really complicated. So this is supposed to be a replacement for YAML, but you still got to type in a bunch of values if you want to get very, very specific with how this dashboard is built. But what you don't have to do is do CSS or anything else. You just type in the values and it puts it in the right place. It formats it for you. That's the power of this Ultra card, is you want to make it look like something, you can make it look like something. All right, so I'm going to get really long-winded here, so let me just keep moving. A bunch of stuff you can change here. I'm not going to go into every bit of this right now, but I do want to build out a couple of cards for you. So then I have another column I'm going to add, and the module is going to be an icon. And actually, I have two different modules. I'm going to start with an info item. And this is going to be back on general. I'm going to look for a back door. Let me find the right one here. The current status of the back door. And actually, I want the actual back door. Let me try something different here. All right, so I'm going to add in a kind of a new feature that is available in this as well. It's called a horizontal or vertical layout. I want a horizontal layout. And what's nice about this is I can put all of these things in here in the horizontal, and it's going to put them horizontal for me across the screen. So I'm going to add a module, and this is going to be an info module. So this basically gives me a state of something. And that, just looking to see what the actual entity is. Bear with me on that. I want to get the right one. So I'm going to add in front door. And this should be the front door status. That's the lock. Who knew I had so many things that were the front door? And it's funny how I say front door and it's looking at back door. All right, so there's the front door. All right, so I have the front door here. And now what I want to do is I want to fix a few things. Like I don't need that whole piece up there. So I can come down here to the name and say front. And then I don't need the state because it'll change the icon based on what the state is. I don't need units are already gone. So then I also want to put the text below it. So now I click this arrow and the text goes below it. You see what's happening here? I'm able to actually very quickly change all of this. I can change the font size too, or revert it back. What is that? That's not font, that's icon gap. So I can change the icon size if I want to make it bigger or smaller. Revert that back. I can change the name, which is not, yeah, there it is. I can change that too. The value, which is not shown in the icon gap. So I could change that icon gap if I wanted to do that. So it's all very customizable. Again, very nice because it's sliders. You don't have to do anything, but just do this, see what it looks like. And then if you like it, leave it alone. And then we did layout and positioning. All right, so the actions, this is where you set what you want it to do whenever you touch it. In this case, I'm leaving it all default for that. And logic will stay the same. This one doesn't have the ability to change the state of the icon or change the icon based on state, but we'll get to another one here in a second. All right, so that's the first one. And now what I want to do is I want to pull this into this, because when I add another module here, and this is going to be an icon, and this icon is going to be, let me find it. This one is the front door lock. And I'm going to put that down here. So entity is this front door lock, except I don't want entity, I want just lock. There we go, front door lock. And this is where you can get in here and you can change a bunch of things about it. So I'm going to show the visual editor on my other side and see what we got here. So I have inactive state. So these are states you can set here. So this is locked for inactive. So when it's locked, it'll be inactive. When it's unlocked, it'll be active. So unlocked is the active state. And then under the icon configuration, this is where you can set different stuff. So the inactive icon is just a lock. And then I want to change the color. So when it's locked, I want it to be green. And the inactive background is, we'll leave that alone, but what else we got here? Yeah, this is all inactive. Then we want the active icon. The active icon is going to be, first we have to unlock it here. And then the active icon is going to be, it's going to still be locked, but it'll be an unlock. So I want the really big unlock here. So let's do that one. So it'll show that unlocked. And then I want it to be red. And we'll leave all the rest of that alone. And then the name, I only want it to say front. And I don't even need the state. And then the back will be front as well. Even though it said front on there, you actually have to specify it. And where's the state? I want to turn off the state. I don't need it to show me that. Display state is somewhere on here. Let me find it. The other thing I have a little bit of an issue with is how little real estate you have here to try to see what's going on. Use state, color, active size. I know somewhere in here you can turn off the state. So there we go. Turn off the state configuration. You get no state. And then you can do things like icon animation as well. You can also do that under design. So if the icon is active, I want it to pulse, then it will pulse. If I want it to, and then we'll say none, because I want to just show you what it looks like when it's inactive. We're not going to be able to see it, are we? Let's just do none. I'll come back to that in just a moment. But you can change the icons, unless I will actually do this inactive. We'll just make it shake. Yeah, there it is. Now you see it. So it's shaking when it's inactive. Of course, we don't want that. You could do something like rotate right. So if you wanted this to actually rotate whenever it's unlocked, then you could do that. So you have your options there. Now for me, active, I would like it to be a little more noticeable. So I'll do a fade and it'll kind of do a pulsing fade in and out like this. You can see it right there. So that gives me a little bit more of a visual indication when it's in a state I don't want it to be in. Now you can also do the whole card in a design under animations. You can do the same kind of thing. You can do a rotate right or rotate left or whatever and you have to select the entity. So this, again, this lock, this one right here, and then you have to tell it the state. So if you want it locked, if it was locked, it would display a certain way, and it was unlocked, it would display a different way. Now I did this initially and I didn't realize you could do it just for the icon. To me, the icon itself, doing it is better. Otherwise this whole section will do stuff. So I don't really want any animation. So I'll just reset that back to default. So there's nothing there. And again, you can change all these things here as well. The background, the border, the spacing, the position, everything else. All right. So now I have 2 devices in here and they're now, they're in a column. So if I take this now and I put it in here, now they're side by side. Now this is the thing where I messed up earlier. If you go into this general setting here for this particular layout, you can change the gap between items. So if I want them to be farther apart, I can do that. But if I do that on the on my phone or my mobile device, then it makes it super wide. It doesn't auto adjust it, and then it's too wide for my phone screen. So it's a nice thing to have, and maybe if you have a static dashboard on a desktop or something, or a wallboard, it's always the same. You can leave the gap or you can specify it. Otherwise, I would just leave it default. And one thing I noticed here is that the fonts are different, which drives me crazy. So what I need to do back on this is go back to my inactive name, I think it is. Font colors aside. Let me just, that's fine. What about active? Shouldn't be active, so that shouldn't matter. So those are right. Let me go back over to this other one, see if I change that. My font settings. I don't know, maybe it's because this one's bold. Anyway, I'll have to adjust that. You can play around with these kinds of things as well and make this look like whatever you want it to do. Now, let me just show you on a different page what I've done, and I'll come back to this in a minute because I'm getting long-winded again. If I look over at this, when you're all said and done, when you've built something, this is what the end looks like. So I've just basically done this again, and then I added a border around this whole card. So I go back into that new demo, and it looks like I didn't save anything. Very smart. Very, very smart. Well, like I said, this is a raw video format. Let me just go into this one and explain a little bit more about it. So you can see now that I have a second section here, another horizontal layout. I've got 2 info modules, and those info modules are my motion in the driveway and a motion in the hallway, because the ecobee is a motion sensor, so it picks that up. So what I have here is I've got row 1, and then I've got a column with 2 horizontal layouts in it, and then I've got row 2, which is this with a single column in it, and then I have row 3 with these together. Now there's 2 columns, so when I do this, I go in here and choose that one. This one has 1 column, but they're side by side. And I'm not exactly sure how I got it to do that, but I did, because these are right next to each other. This should actually be another horizontal layout, but somehow I got the two of them to stay together in the same thing. Let me just pull this out of here and see what happens. And by the way, you can drag stuff all over the place. Oops. Oh, so this is a separator. And this is the outside environment one, which is in the wrong place now. Let me go put that back down here. Where'd it go? So that's just a separator up there. That was where it should have been. Now you can drag these down if you get it just right. And then the text module is actually the word outside. There we go. And see, now we've made a mess of things because this should be up here, I think. And these two should be in separate columns. There we go. See how you can just play around with this till you do all whatever you want with it. Now there's also, you'll notice, and let me save this. Actually, I'll cancel it so I don't overwrite my changes. Oh, I did want to show you this. I want to show you this black box here too. Under now this is a column. This is row 1. So let me see if it's in here. It is not design. So let me go back. I don't think that's where it's at. I think it's in here. Design. You can do things like borders, and it may be in the other one. Let me go over here and take a look. See how you can get really lost in this? If I look at border on this, yeah, I think it's not here either. Somewhere in here, I've created a border for these. You know what? Actually, I think it's in here. Let's go here. Design, border. Yeah, here it is. So in order to create this right here, all I've done is I've changed the background color to dark. I've added a border. The border radius is 25. So if you change this to, like, say 50, you can see how it gets really round. So you can change that really easily. The border style, you can choose between solid, dash, or whatever else. I've got a solid border. The border width, you can make it as thick as you want. And then you can also change the color of the border. So if I wanted a nice whatever color that is, I would set it as that. And that's how you do that. And then all the rest of these are the same way, or the same thing as I talked about before. And so then you have something that looks like this. And if you get all the way out of it, this is what it looks like. You have this text module. You have this horizontal layout module with these status or info and icon modules in it. You have a couple more info modules. You got another text module, and you've got a couple of more info modules that are inside of that one. Now you can, just like any other dashboard, you can actually go in here and create additional sections and add it. So this is another Ultra card. And this Ultra card has a text module that says cameras up here. And then I've got two camera modules. One is the driveway. And let me show you what the driveway is doing. You don't see it over here. It's because it's not active. And the reason it's not active is under logic. I have this thing that says if any condition below is met, and that condition name has to be someone in the driveway occupying it. And that basically that sensor, driveway occupancy sensor, is set to on, right? Once that's set to on, then it becomes visible. And you can see here, hopefully, that it says hidden by logic. That just means it's there, but this particular condition has not been met yet, and therefore it won't display it. So the logic helps you determine whether something gets displayed or not. So that's another nice feature. And there's a whole bunch of other cards and things you can add in here, or modules. There's the text module separator, which I used on the other one. You can display images and photos, and you would have to go find an image. I don't have a specific image to display here. You have entities, attributes, your image, URLs, all these different things you can actually display on this particular one. Oops. Bars, you can do progress bars. You can do, what are my bar settings here? Configure how the bar is set. Battery levels, bar appearance flat, neon glow, which is cool, gradient overlay, embossed. So you have all these different options to set your bar, left to right, right to left. You can, by slider, adjust the bar height, the border radius of the bar, the bar width. And if you change this, it looks like it does some other stuff. You give left, right, or center alignment for the bar. So we can just set all these back to defaults. So again, there's a lot of stuff on this this particular Ultra card, and I can't even go through all of the stuff that's available to it. See how you can set the gradient. and these gradients can be based on thresholds, right? So at 50% it's yellow, at 0% it's red, and then it's supposed to be a gradient from this point, cropped value based. So it's a gradient based on the value. So that's really another nice little feature. And then you have icons. We did that one. Markdown module. Now you can put stuff in a markdown module that accepts different things. So you could create a very customized look using markdown. And then all of the design and logic and everything is all the same for that. And what other stuff do we have here? Graphs. Now the graphs I wasn't very happy with. So if we look at a graph card, chart type, you can choose line, bar, pie, or donut. So a line chart's typically what we would do for specific entity. And I'm going to just pick some temperature. Let's do the outside temperature. Okay, there's the outside temperature. And if I can actually choose whether to show the title or the value. That's a current value. You can choose the actual timeline for that or history time. You can normalize values. Not sure what that does exactly. Then you've got your chart height, just like everything else, your sliders. And you've got your chart width. And then your info position can be switched. Your legend position can be switched. Let's make that top left. And the name would be, is there a name? Yep, somewhere in here. Temp. And what else? Background color. You can change the background color of the chart, which is awful. Let's not do that. And then a whole bunch of chart options here. Show the legend, show the grid, smooth the lines, show tooltips, which is when you hover over, it tells you something. Anyway, the thing I don't like about the chart here, if we go back and actually look at it, it's when you look at it on this actual dashboard, it looks kind of compressed and, yuck to me. It's just, I think the way it's compressed into this little space right here, it just doesn't look that good. So I'm not really pleased with how that looks. And then the other thing is, for whatever reason, the chart is here, but the legend is up top within this window. So that may be something where the chart needs to be in its own column. So if I add a column and then I move the graphs module, does that move the title? No, the title's still at the very top of the entire block here. And I'm not sure what's going on here because there's nothing here that I can see that's in there. I don't see any, maybe I set something to make this centered instead of at the top. So there's all these settings here, appearance, card padding. There's no card padding. There's no border radius for the settings of the card itself, but something's up here in the way. So get rid of that, what happens? Anyway, so, let's just talk about this a second. This isn't designed to go into all the details and everything you can do with the Ultra card. I'm sure it's an amazing card. And if I spent forever with it, a lot of time with it, I would be able to really dig in and make it look exactly the way I wanted to. If you're interested in all those extra settings like border radiuses and colors and all those things that make it work specifically the way you want to without having to use the code, the YAML or CSS or any of that stuff, UltraCard is probably something that you should look into. I've built a lot of dashboards without using something like the UltraCard, and what has happened, for me anyway, is I'm trying to get over here to show you. So dashboards to me are super easy to actually fill out without, give me just 1 second here. I'm trying to get you something to see. All right, so like this dashboard, right? To me, this is really easy to do. And Home Assistant is doing a lot of work to make dashboarding and building dashboards a lot easier For example, this home dashboard that they did. This is a home dashboard that's automatically generated for you. And you can add favorites and things up here. And they're stating that they're going to continue to make this even better. One thing they've actually also done is given the ability to have common controls, things that you use most often during the hour that you're currently in for the your home assistant instance is going to be, it will show up in here. And then if you're always locking the lock at a certain time or opening the blinds or whatever at a certain time, when you open your dashboard, it should show you that control. I have it at the bottom, but you could put it up here or wherever. It would show you that control. And you would be able to immediately get to those things you use most often. So there's a lot of work being done by Home Assistant to make dashboarding easier. UltraCard is just another way to do dashboarding. There are a lot of ways to do dashboards within Home Assistant. And so I think the aim of UltraCard is to give you very, very fine control. And it's calling itself a professional kind of setup. So if you want to build professional dashboards using a UI, drag and drop and all that, then UltraCard is something you can use for that. For me, it's fun to play with and it might be useful in some cases. There's still a lot of little things I saw that aren't working the way I think they should work. In fact, let me just show you one final thing here before we end up being done with this. In their list of things that you can do with this, there is the ability to use built-in cards. Let me find out where that is. Third-party cards. So you can embed any installed custom Home Assistant card within UltraCard's layout system. And the way you do that is you add the module, you navigate to the third-party tab in the module selector, and you add a third-party card. If I go into that, not that one, and I go to the third-party card selector, so I want to edit this one, and I add a module. I've seen some of their demos or some of the screenshots on their webpage. It said there should be a third party or other things up top here. I don't see any of that. I don't see any third party stuff down here. So I don't know how you do what it says here to be able to add Home Assistant cards. But obviously it's working because I would see probably more issues related to that on there. Anyway, long story short, the UltraCard looks like a promising and an easy way to get into some dashboarding if you want to do that. And if you're creative with how that I can see how that can work for you. So give it a try. It's not hard to use. It doesn't cost you anything to play around with it. If you want to do the pro features and you want to support the UltraCard developers, then that's one way to do it. I'm definitely not against supporting people that make stuff like this. So even if you don't want to use a lot of the free features, if you just want to give them some support and join up with a monthly subscription to their Pro Card or whatever, certainly do it. Totally up to you. That's all I want to say about UltraCard today. Just a little glimpse into it. Download it, put it in your Home Assistant, play around with it, and see what you can build. And with that, I think that's plenty for this video. Plenty long. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting, and we'll see you on the next one.